It is hard to find a bigger fan of you than Mom. Through all the teenage mischief and the tough first steps of adulthood, she's been there supporting you every step of the way. This Mother's Day, show her just how much you appreciate all of her dedication with 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers is giving you an exclusive 24 for 24 offer. 24 multicolored roses for $24. That's only $1 per rose. With a bright and beautiful mix of premium roses in a rainbow of colors, these blooms are guaranteed to show Mom just how much she's loved. Multicolored roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life: wife, aunt, sister, grandma. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak from premier farms and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 24 multicolored roses for only $24. That's an amazing offer. But you got to hurry because it expires Thursday. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what Mom would want you to do. To order 24 stunning multicolored roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here. You know, we were told it was different.
Yes.
We're told it's going to be different.
It's a different team this year.
New year.
This year they're ready to go.
New season.
New Raptors.
We the North.
Yeah.
Oh, when's that man in? Can't wait to bash him in.
Yeah. By the way, you know, it was different in the way they blew it.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to describe it. I mean, it's unbelievable. So glad you're with us. We got a lot coming up today because, you know, we don't have enough Notre Dame talk. Mike McGlinchey, the 9th overall pick of the draft of the San Francisco 49ers.
Wait a minute. We have 3 players in the draft today, and all of a sudden you're going to rail on Notre Dame?
Yeah, pretty much.
Listen, it's not our fault we had 2 top 10 picks, all right? Yeah. It's not our fault our guys are really good.
Hey, did you guys go to Notre Dame?
We did. Let's put on the Baylor.
Not existent. There we go. But when that happens, you'll be here. Jeff Saturday will join us at 7:30. We're going to play Brettomology.
Yes, we are.
Later on this morning, which we're very much excited about. Brett, the researcher. Brett, how would you describe this crop of phrases?
I would say they're the best yet.
Best yet? All right.
But I'm going to say that every time.
Okay.
I was going to say, you are going to say that every time.
By the way, Stanzik, do we have a running total on Brettomology? I think
we
our
have official standings, yes.
I think Golic and I are tied, right?
Devin keeps the official standings. You're 8 for 16. Golic is 7 for 16.
Yeah.
Mike Golic Jr. in his one appearance, 2 for 4.
2 for 4. All
okay.
Right. So we're both batting 500. You're just below.
I'm just below.
Not too shabby. So we'll have that for you. Jeff Saturday, our fine, well-groomed NFL analyst, will join us. And our guy. We're going to get our guy. Austin Prohl.
Austin Prohl, again, he was the second to last pick. He was not Mr. Irrelevant, but we don't think Mr. Irrelevant is irrelevant.
Correct,
because he gets a parade. Yeah. Can we call Austin Prohl, can we name it Mr. Penultimate?
Yes, let's do that.
Can we do that?
Mr. Penny?
Mr. Penny.
I love the fact that you think, when I said penultimate a couple of times, you're like, what is that stupid word?
Yeah, I hate it.
Now you're all in on it.
I hate it, but it fits here.
There you go. Exactly. I hate it until I don't.
Trey, I'll give you a reason why you should love the term penultimate.
Yeah.
Allie and I tried to rebrand Thursday as Penny Day, Penultimate Day.
Yeah.
And the one person in the world it bothered more than anyone else, Stanzik.
Oh,
really?
Good. So let's do it then.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
See, I knew that would change your tune.
Wednesday is Let's Make Stanzik Angry Day. Because every day is Let's Make Stanzik Angry Day. He's the most unhappy fella.
You're doing a hell of a job.
We'll also have Mike Maccagnan, the Jets GM, will join us. And the player that a team traded a number 1 pick for in the draft, and it wasn't a quarterback, Marcus Davenport, the defensive end out of UTSA, now with the Saints. First-round pick was traded for him.
Way up.
To get
so,
I mean, expectations
are there.
come with that.
We're also having a guy that's going to eat poop on.
Eat poop. I mean, come on. Seriously. You knew it was going to end up on this show. You're eating poop, you're going to be on our show.
Yes, that's the underlying motto, Golic and Wingo. If you eat poop, you're on the show.
That's exactly right.
I think that's our ride or die line right there.
Without a doubt.
You eat poop, you're on our show.
Hey, do you want to come on our show? You're going to eat poop, or have you eaten poop?
Yeah.
No?
How do you think we got Brett on here?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Hey, whoa, well, it's wedding season. All right, here we go.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
Oh, fun times in Cleveland again, because the Cavs became the second team in the last 20 postseasons to win a playoff game in which they never led in regulation. They outlast the Raptors 113-112 in overtime, even though LeBron was off.
LeBron played almost 47 minutes in this game. With 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, they already sat him down, which was kind of an odd thing. And here we go. I'm telling you, the mental part of this game, I'll keep going back to it. All I can do is my personal experience. Playing in Philly, we had the Giants number for a while, and the Redskins had our number. And it's just in your head. Even if we got a lead on, or the Giants got a lead on us, I know that I talked to the guys after we were done playing, they'd be like, we were waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for something to happen. And we were like that against Washington. We'd get the lead on them, or if we had it, we'd be like, okay, what's going to happen? What is going to happen that we're going to fall apart here? Toronto, I'm not kidding you. They are all seeing their therapist today because they can't get over this hump. We'll break down the game and the shots, and LeBron was bad in the fourth quarter and overtime, and they can't get the ball in the hands of their shooters. Toronto can't at the end of a game and go through. There's a lot to go through. I get it. But the bottom line is they have a bugaboo in their head about the Cavaliers. They can't get over it. And this series is 1-0 Cavs. It's over. This series is
Whoa. You're telling me.
I'm telling you
that it's over.
Over.
All right.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Over. Or it's not.
No,
it's over.
It's over. You can stick a fork in. You I think hit on the point that I got stuck the most on, which is that in the final moments of regulation and overtime, who was taking the shot? Because to me, that indicates a level
Fred Van Fleet.
Yeah, I mean, if Fred Van Vliet, no disrespect to him,
right.
has been a productive guy.
He's a fine player.
The Rigby moment. But that's not the guy that in a Toronto backcourt that's got two All-Stars could or should be taking the shot in those moments. And that to me indicates a level of puckering that goes on in that time period.
So there's either the side of, do you give Cleveland the credit for getting the ball out of DeRozan's hands and making the ball go somewhere else, or criticize Toronto for not saying, we can't let them do that. We have to find a way to have our guy get the shot.
Oh, that's the criticism. Because listen, if it's on the other side and all of a sudden it's LeBron James, for years we spent time chastising him for passing the ball in those moments. And that's when it was more clearly defined plays. In here, you've got DeMar DeRozan dribbling into coverage after getting locked down by Tristan Thompson on the switch.
LeBron did not score in overtime, and they still won.
Yeah.
That tells you what a gack job this was by the Raptors. They missed their last 11 shots in regulation. I mean, this was, what did we say all day yesterday? If not tonight, when?
Yeah.
When are they ever going to beat the Cavs? I believe it's 8 straight postseason losses in a row.
Seven
straight.
Yeah.
7 straight postseason losses by the Raptors to the Cleveland Cavs. I mean, you're right. They're in couples therapy, and they're the one that we can't shake it.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea how to get around this team.
Although, it makes sense. We can mock them for getting Fred Van Vliet into the final shot, but what's the alternative? Do you really want DeMar to regular season taking that?
Oh,
there it is.
Just saying.
All coming out.
Somewhere Adnan is curled up in the fetal position saying this can't be happening again.
The North.
It is. It's happening.
We the North.
And Drake is angry.
Off the top.
All right, meanwhile, the Warriors beat the Pelicans 121-116, take a 2-0 series lead. Steph Curry, in a fabulous 6-man appearance off the bench, 28 points in 27 minutes off the bench.
I think that's, obviously what has to happen going forward. Steph has to come off the bench. He has to be your top reserve. Right?
Embrace it.
I mean, listen, what I gave you the stats yesterday, what this guy does a game after coming back from time off, whether it's an ankle, he's come back from an MCL before, he drops a ton of points. He did it here. He was plus 26 in his 27 minutes, a little over 27 minutes of action. I'll tell you what, New Orleans hung with him. The Golden State would make a run, and New Orleans hung with them. They would come back. They never let this one get away. I give them a lot of credit. Golden State's a better team, but New Orleans, without Boogie Cousins, there's this talk, are they better without him? They better with him. They're going to be good next year if they're all together again.
Yes.
How will they be?
They'll be good.
But I give them a lot of credit, but they're not looking for the respect card like maybe, the Pacers were, saying you better respect us now. You're still sitting at home. New Orleans wants to win, and they hung in this game pretty well. Draymond Green, a triple-double in the first game, a 1 rebound short of a triple-double here. He's been fantastic, but Steph is back, and if Steph is back and not kicking off any rust, I just don't see this team losing.
No, it's hard to see anything but the Rockets and Warriors coming out of the West now. But I look at the 2 games that we saw last night. The Toronto Raptors, who we expected more out of, are going up against a worse team. But the Pelicans have looked better against a better team.
Yep.
If you're looking at these two series now, the Pels are in a 2-0 hole. The Raptors are down 1-0. Which of those teams do you think wins more games overall in their series, the Pelicans or the Raptors?
Well, I think the Pelicans actually will play pretty well against Golden State at home.
But do you think they'll win more games than the Raptors?
I mean, no. I think I'd have to go with the Raptors. But then again, that was such a job by the Raptors.
Really
I can't say, it's definitely got to be the Raptors.
It really was, because now, I mean, Golden State's back to full strength.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. But New Orleans did play them well. That's a great question.
They go back home now. New Orleans goes back home looking great in Game 2. Game 1, got blown out a little bit. That was a little bit of a different story.
I may still say Toronto, because I think some of those Cavs players that hit well last night, we know they'll be cold shooting again at some point.
I know we hit the rummer, buzzer, but real quickly, that plus 26 you talked about. Remember that clip with Steve Kerr that you showed one night when Steph was off? He goes, "Let me show you. See the minutes?
Oh, right.
See what you're giving us? Even when you're on the floor, even if you're not hitting your shots, you're winning for us because of all the things that you do. It makes everybody draw their attention to you. So Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things." All right, we continue.
Off the top.
Well, Houston starter Justin Verlander in baseball did Justin Verlander things. He struck out 14 batters in 8 scoreless innings.
Holy smokes, what a great win for them.
And then he didn't pitch the 9th inning, and this happened.
High fly ball, deep center. Going back Springer. Still back. See ya. A 3-run home run for Sanchez. And the Yankees take a 3-0 lead.
That Michael K. on the Yes Network is Gary Sanchez hit a 3-run homer off Ken Giles in the 9th inning en route to the 4-0 win. It hurt Houston so much that Ken Giles, the pitcher, punched himself in the face as he was going into the dugout.
He really did.
In the face!
He hit himself in the shoulder with his mitt, and then he literally punched himself in the face going to the dugout. I wondered here, we have been talking about Sanchez lately, have we not? About some big hits, 3 home runs in the last 6 days, and big home runs. 2nd and 3rd in the 9th inning and 1 out. You think about walking him? You think about loading the bases up? You getting the chance to force a double play? Is that a thought process there at all? But no, you give up the home run. I'm just asking. I don't know. But, he makes him pay for it. 3-run shot. That's the ball game after Verlander's got to be going, seriously, guys, what do I need to do here? What's going on? And Sanchez had to deal with before the game the fact that one of the guys he catches for, in Sonny Gray, basically said, I'm more comfortable with a backup catcher.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with that. But his stick has been huge these last few games.
And they've needed it because Stanton is still bad. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts again last night. At what point do we really sound the alarm for him? I understand we talked the other day about needing large sample sizes in baseball.
We're getting there.
Because when you look at this team, what do we think their ceiling is? We obviously thought it was pretty high before the season. How high can it be if he keeps hitting like this?
The ceiling is the roof. I mean, let's just
there
be
you
clear
go.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, 46 strikeouts, second most in
Yep.
Major League Baseball. Look, I have to believe eventually he'll cut that down, but the strikeouts are going to always be part of his game.
Yeah, they are.
That's just
strikeouts are part of baseball now.
He just needs to hit the other things as a little more, and we hit the buzzer.
I love the fact we're going to the buzzer sound. We got a lot to say.
What's important?
Yeah.
This is important stuff.
Off the top.
Speaking of important,
that time.
Is it possible? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that this is the year that Alex Ovechkin and the Caps finally make it? Whoa! To the conference finals, because they're now up 2-1 in their series on the Pens. Alex Ovechkin scored with just over a minute remaining in the third, and they have the series lead over Pittsburgh for the first time since they won Game 1 of the 2016 Eastern Conference Final. They have, of course, lost that series.
Yeah, Nicholas Backstrom and Ovechkin had the 2-on-1 taking it down the ice. Great late pass by Backstrom to Ovechkin right in front of the net. Gets the game winner, as you said, with a minute to go. More controversy. Well, what will get involved in this with Tom Wilson from the Caps? He had Zach Aston Reese with a shoulder to the jaw. Now, our own Barry Melrose didn't think it was a high hit. He did lead with a shoulder, but he lifted right as he hit. Reese right at the end saw the hit coming, but Wilson lifted on it, caught him in the jaw, broke his jaw, and gave him a concussion. He's going to need surgery. He's going to be out for a little while. in the NFL, there'd have been a fine and a suspension. We don't know what's going to happen here. Wilson in game 2, had a high hit and knocked a player out of the game as well. So, he's getting his money's worth. There's no doubt about that. As Washington, in the bigger story, does take this 2-1 series lead.
In the NFL, we'd be talking about the grim future of the game off that.
Exactly right.
Let alone just the immediate ramifications. So
there has to be some sort of penalty for that hit. I'm sorry. He leapt off his skates and hit him in the shoulder, hit him in his shoulder,
caught him in the jaw.
To his face.
That's the big point of contention is why would you need to jump in a situation like that?
He just lifted right at the end of if he didn't, obviously there's no question, but right as he's going to hit, he lifts up and comes off his skates and does catch Reese right in the jaw.
Yeah,
man.
it's one of those things that, like, understanding the mechanics of a hit like that, like when you're going in for a hit, you tend to rise. You do. Always hear the phrase extend your hips. So more bad blood in that series that's actually turning out pretty good for the Caps.
As we disagree and discard the buzzer completely,
we do.
How much do you think, even though the Caps are in this series up 2-1, they're thinking, we may find
I'm talking about the Raptors.
Much like the Raptors.
That's exactly right.
Are they just waiting for the other skate to unlace, for lack of a better term?
And a quick note, Jets beat the Predators. Our boy Jason Fitz has to be not too happy this morning. It's a 4-4 game, and then Jets scored 3 times in the final 5 minutes to get that win. So Jets go up, what are they, up 2-1 in that series.
Yeah. All right, so that was, as we like to say,
as they say in hockey, let's do that hockey.
But we're back now to the NBA, and I just... If you're Cleveland, you have to sort of be laughing at this point. I mean, what else could be better? Okay, LeBron admits he's completely burnt. The Raptors are rested and ready. LeBron doesn't score in overtime. In fact, he's 3 of 15?
3 of 15 in fourth quarter and overtime. Doesn't score in overtime.
3 of 15, fourth quarter and doesn't score. And somehow they eke out a 1-point win. I mean, if you're the Cavs, you're like, hey, man, we got these guys. Here was LeBron, by the way, after the game.
We knew we were going to get their best shot today. They knew we didn't have much rest. They knew we didn't have much preparation. They kind of been waiting around for us. And, we just wanted to come in with the best game plan that we could in a short time, execute offensively. Shots weren't going in. Like I said, for me personally, I was, at probably one of my worst games of the season.
So there were a couple of moments in this game, and kind of what I thought the way it would go, depending on where the lead went. So you had a double-digit lead for a bit, did Toronto in the second quarter. So do they extend it, or does it go down before halftime? Of course it goes down. It's a three-point game at halftime. In the third quarter, they get up 13. So again, here you go. Okay, and here's the moment. You go up 18, maybe you get up 20, up 17, something like that. You kind of get the Cavs to go, okay, that's game 1. So where does that go? Going into the fourth quarter, Cavs are only down 5. So they find themselves in it when they try and make that run to catch. They do. And then you get the fourth quarter where Toronto was just horrific. They missed, 14 shots in the restricted area, including the volleyball that was played after the last shot, the tips all over the place, where, the stats say they had a 95% chance of one of those tips going in as they were volleyballing that thing around, but just ugly for them in the fourth quarter and overtime.
It was brutal, as Ian Eagle said on the broadcast. There was a top on there's a cap on the rim. Yeah. And that final sequence, it was brutal. And for a guy involved in that sequence, and Jonas Valanciunas, who had been great for them most of the night, ate Kevin Love alive in the first half until they started switching Tristan Thompson, throwing some different looks at him, but had a couple of go-to and good chances at the end of that game and just couldn't deliver it. In a game, too, where in that situation, you had 19 second chance points if you're the Raptors in this game, the most you've had all postseason, and yet you couldn't get 2 more when you needed them the most.
I mean, it was all there for Toronto. They had the lead in the entire game until the end of the game in regulation. LeBron was struggling. I mean, LeBron was gassed. He was gassed at some point.
How about after all of that, the look LeBron got at the end of regulation?
Yeah.
He got an open shot. I mean, that rattled and could have ended, which would have been unbelievable for Toronto trying to explain how LeBron is wide open on the last shot of regulation.
Cavs quickly made the switch to the second round. Make the switch brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And look, Tyronn Lue basically saying, well, we probably didn't deserve to win this game, but we'll take it.
Considering the circumstances, we definitely stole one. I don't think we played our best game. And I think they know that as well. We shooting 41% from the field. We usually do a better job. Bron's not going to shoot 12 or 30. So we didn't play extremely well, but to come in and beat a good team like Toronto on their home floor, like you said, it does feel like we stole one.
Is that next level trolling?
Yeah.
By the way, what he's doing, what he's really doing right there, Ty Lue, is basically saying, man, you guys just can't beat us.
Really?
We stunk and you still lost.
This was your shot.
I mean, right? That's exactly what he's doing.
And here's what I love. Professional athletes, they do this for $25, $50, $100. It's the coolest thing, but it happens all the time. What does Tristan Thompson make? Brett, you said $16 million.
Yeah.
And you know what he was worried about? Not losing $100. Amongst the team, if you got beat by a pump fake by DeRozan, it would cost you $100. Now, this happens all the time in different sports, little things like that, where it's not so much the money, it's we set this thing up as a team and you got beat by it. So it was $100 if you got beat by a DeRozan pump fake. And Tristan Thompson was actually talking about it after the game, making the joke, hey, I can't be giving up my money. I have a new kid. I want a college education. Obviously, that's all a joke. But amazing enough, that's what these guys think about every now and then. It's hilarious.
That happens in any sport.
Yes, it does.
I can promise you some of the most competitive rounds of golf happen in practice rounds before majors with guys who are betting on almost every swing on every hole because they don't want to lose. It's that thing all the time.
I mean, I've seen friendships almost ended over tape ball basketball in locker rooms over the bets that go on in that. So it's amazing the motivators you find at this point in the season. That all comes and gets a little easier when you know and believe in your heart of hearts that you're just flat out better and more equipped than the team across from you. And that's the confidence on the other side. Cleveland looks at these guys and says, the Raptors, we know how this story
You
ends.
guys can't beat us, and it only took Trey one segment to bring up golf.
There you go. Well, I played to my strengths. Because I played yesterday. Played really well, by the way.
You did.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Welcoming in our next guest. Hey, did you guys know he played for Notre Dame? I wasn't sure if you guys knew he played for Notre Dame.
I heard that.
Mike McGlinchey, formerly of Notre Dame, now of the San Francisco 49ers, joins us now on Golic and Wingo. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I didn't have a choice, just so you know. These Golden Domers keep bashing me over the head with their Golden Domes.
Cliff, seriously?
As they should.
Seriously, Cliff, thank you. Thank you, Cliff. Way late with the song.
Make our guest feel at home.
Come on now. Wow, Mike, congratulations. What a moment. We saw the video. You weren't at the draft. You were with a bunch of family and you got a lot of friends, by the way. So take us back again to
that was true. That was good.
To that moment of getting that phone call, and we all saw your emotion in the video, but just take us back there and just that feeling when you got the call.
Well, I was related to most of those people, so not all. That was mostly family, but it was just an incredible night. And when I got the call, I wasn't expecting San Francisco. I hadn't really talked much to them after the combine at all. They kept it pretty close to their vest that they were going to take me, and as soon as the Bears picked at 8, my phone rang, and I knew where I was going after that, and spoke to Mr. Lynch and Coach Shanahan, and started crying and hugging everybody and celebrating, and it was just an incredible moment for me and my family.
Mike McGlinchey with us, 49ers OT on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join, and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. I always find that interesting, Mike, because we were talking about this with Colton Miller. The Raiders never had him in for a workout, and they chose him in the first round. So you really didn't have a lot of contact with San Francisco, and they still took you. Who were the teams that actually had the most interest and showed the most interest in you?
Well, I had visited and interviewed and worked out for Tampa Bay and the Bengals and a couple other teams, but I knew that going into the week that Oakland was probably going to be the most likely situation. But after the Niners picked me, I guess they went and felt that Colton Miller was a great player as well. So I was really, really shocked when San Francisco was the team that called, and I only had one formal interview with them at the Combine, and it was 15 minutes long, and that's literally all I had heard from them. So a pretty wild experience and pretty wild how the draft shakes out, but very fortunate and very lucky to be a 49er.
So now you are a 49er. You understand this organization as it's starting to build its identity, has already cemented its starting quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo. Have you had a chance to talk to Jimmy yet, the guy that you're going to be protecting?
Yeah, so I met Jimmy right after one of his workouts this past weekend when I got flown out there for all the interviews and media and stuff like that this past weekend. Very excited to get to work with Jimmy. I mean, he's as good as it gets, I think, in the league, and I think that we really have a chance to do something special this year, and I think that he proved that as the last couple games flew by. And, Jimmy's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFL, and obviously super excited to be in front of him and keeping him upright and healthy and allowing him to do what he can do and light up the scoreboard.
Talking to Mike McGlinchey, the new offensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers, formerly of Notre Dame, where, again, Quentin Nelson went number 6 to the Colts. We had him on yesterday, but there's 3 of us right now. 2 of us in this room, 1 on the phone. I'm sorry, 2 of you. I didn't get yelled at by Harry Heastan, but you got yelled at by Harry Heastan. My son Mike did. McGlinchey, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure Quentin did for a while. So there's the 3 I was thinking of. So let's go into the making of a lineman a little bit. Harry Heastan, your coach at Notre Dame, now with the Chicago Bears. Tell everybody how he helped you become a first-round draft pick.
Well, I think Harry is just, kind of the mastermind of how to get the best out of his players. I think that he is as good as it gets in both the college football ranks and the NFL ranks as an offensive line coach, and the Bears are very lucky to have him. But he's just, just so passionate, so intense, and so good at teaching the small details that nobody really hones in anymore. And I think that he's just so old school in that regard, and that he doesn't let anything slip underneath the cracks or go unnoticed. And it's the passion and the intensity and the demand that he has for greatness, along with the ability to teach the greatest details of the game and of the position, that just kind of crank out offensive linemen left and right like we have in the last 5 or 6 years.
Mike McGlinchey with us, 49ers offensive tackle, 9th overall selection. I don't know if you guys know he did play at Notre Dame.
Yes, he did.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about your background, because one of the things I love doing in preparing for the draft is reading the stories of everybody, because I think people look at draftees as like products instead of people, and they're like something you can go to the Apple store to make your computer run faster instead of being an actual human being. One of the things I loved about your story is people may not know you're cousins with Matt Ryan, and by the way, in the background article I read, he said, I almost went to Boston College because of Matt Ryan. Thank God I didn't do that. Threw that one in there. But you also told the story one time of you when you families were all vacationing somewhere and you were on the beach, and Matt went to throw you the football, and he kept throwing it way over your head, and you asked him why he was doing that, and you said... He said because that's where Julio goes up to get it. And I said, well, you know what? I'll take the loss on that one then, because I'm not getting up there. Matt, come down to my level, man. Understand who you're working with.
Because I knew that he could put it wherever he wanted it, and I knew that he was doing that on purpose. And I said, well, what the hell are you doing? I can't get up there. And he said, well, I'm not gonna miss my throws because of what you're capable of doing. So.
Family is the best, isn't it?
Awesome.
It really is. Yeah. Talking to Mike McGlinchey on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And Mike, between Matt, who you're obviously related to, and you mentioned some of the other guys, Ronnie Stanley, Zach Barton, his brother Nick, all that have come out, have you talked to any of these guys specifically, gotten advice about what to expect now that not only you're joining the NFL, but you're your team's first-round pick and the expectations that come with that?
Yeah, I actually spent some time with Zach and Nick 2 weekends ago in Austin, Texas, for Nick's bachelor party, actually. So that was a good time, and it was right before the draft, so I got to get a full lowdown on everything that they, experienced themselves and what to expect from me. And obviously, they were both they both called after the draft, and I've been talking to Nick every other day pretty much since the draft had happened. It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to have your best friends be in the NFL and be able to learn from them and see how successful that they've been over the last few years, especially with Zach and Ronnie and Nick when he can stay healthy. It's just been incredible to watch those guys. And obviously, it's the same thing as it was at Notre Dame. I had the best examples to learn from, and I still do. And I constantly am pulling at those guys for information, for, advice or anything that they can give me to, make my job and my transition a little bit easier.
By the way, knowing the contract that Zach will be signing very soon, did he pay for the entire weekend?
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, he did.
Thank God.
There you go. So let's go on the field a little bit. You played right tackle at Notre Dame and left tackle. What, Coach Shanahan? What was the for you? What will it be out in San Francisco?
Well, they got Joe Staley holding down the left side over there, and he's a pretty damn good player himself. So I'm going to be starting over at the right side.
You got him.
I wouldn't say that. No, not sure about that, but. No, I'll be starting on the right side and really excited about that. And it's where I started at Notre Dame, so keep the same career trajectory as I did when I first started college.
Mike McGlinchey with us, first-round pick of the San Francisco 49ers. Mike, for those that don't play and for those that just are casual observers of the game and hear all these things about football, tell us why you love this game so much. Because I think people don't understand sometimes the passion that guys that do this have for this game and what it means to them.
Well, I think it's a mixture of two things. I think first and foremost, from a football standpoint, it just challenges you constantly, and it's something that you'll never be satisfied with. There's always something to improve on. It's something that, when you get to be at the level that we're at now, it's such a fun competition week in and week out, and it's such a battle. And I get to play against the best players in the world at what I do, and to get to that level and to chase that constantly is a great feat, and it's something that I need to have in my life, and it's just why I get up in the morning. And the other thing of why football is the greatest game in the world is because of the guys that it brings along in your life. Football has given me the relationships that have shaped my entire life, and especially my college career so far. I've gotten the best friends and best teachers and mentors out of playing the game of football that will last for the rest of my life, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. And but it's the combination of the challenge that football brings, how fun it is because of that, and then the people that you get to meet along the way.
All right, listen, that was, let me just say, well done.
Yeah.
For those of us that follow the game and have worked in the game, that's a big part of it for me as well. That camaraderie, I'm sure it exists in every sport, but the feeling is like it's just different in football because you have to have 11 guys working together in that huddle, or otherwise it's never going to work.
Yeah, without a doubt. You have to rely on the guy next to you so much. So
don't screw it up, Mike.
And you relied on a guy next to you, and he relied on you, and you went 6th and 9th in the draft. So congrats to both you guys, and best of luck out there. I'm sure we'll talk to you down the line.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you having me on.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4. Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie, this does look fun. Whee-oh, you melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's the game show segment that's captivating a nation.
The origin is Latin. It has been sort of corrupted over time, like this show.
Making everyone that hears it smarter.
In the 1800s, English authors were likely to partake in opium den activities.
Now, with your host, researcher Brett.
Take a guess where that came from. Brett's got your answer.
It's Brettomology.
Here are the categories. Words and their meanings. That's straightforward.
SportsCenter brought to you by 1-800-Flowers.com. Hard to find a bigger fan of you than Mom. This Mother's Day show her just how much you appreciate all of her dedication. 24 multicolored roses, $24 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com. Click that radio icon, enter the code WINGO.
All right, Brettomology, it's that time. Yeah, baby. Brought to you by Discover Card, who will match all the cashback new card members earn at the end of their first years. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply. Jeff Saturday, are you excited? This is your first Brettomology experience.
I'm excited and very nervous.
Okay, just
at
so
the
you know.
Same time.
Here we go. Here are the stats. I'm 8 for 16.
Mm-hmm.
Golic is 7 for 16. And Junior, in a sample size that is way too small, is just 2 for 4. Jeff Saturday is still batting 1,000 or 0%, considering how you want to look at it, because he's never played. All right, Brett, let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, 4 phrases. We got to go fast. Phrase number 1, field day.
Field day.
Field day.
Is that Field Yates?
You said we have to go fast.
Is it? From 17th century Scotland, a field day was a day where people of the town would get together for a festival or other outdoor gathering. It later became an official Scottish holiday celebrated on the third Friday of July since 1804. Conversely,
or
an 18th century British military term for a day in which soldiers would practice field maneuvers, which was more fun than exercise and drills.
I'm going with 2. Go with number 2.
I will also go with 2, even though I feel like 1 is a really good one. I'm going with 2.
I'm going 1.
Me too. Number 2.
Hey! Number 2! Oh! Saturday, you stink.
Like it.
God,
smart guy now.
Next phrase.
There we go.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, it wasn't.
Is it? Queen Elizabeth I referred to the expression in an address of British Parliament in Cambridge in 1563 after a Dutch insurgency which eventually became the 80 Years' War. She used the Latin, Roma uno dia non está condita. Alternatively, or from a collection of medieval French poetry, Le Proverbe à Villain, a line of a poem read in the original French, Rome ne fut pas faite tout en un jour.
By the way, your French is outstanding.
Horrific.
You're up there with Equanimous St. Brown. Did you say or, by the way?
No.
What do you think?
I'm going number 1.
I'm 1 as well.
I'm going number 1.
Number 2.
I got peanut gallery. Got it right.
All right. Our next phrase. Every dog has its day.
All
right.
Yes.
Is it from our good friend Bill Shakespeare, who debuted the
Bill?
phrase in Hamlet in 1603, saying, "Let Hercules himself do what he may, the cat will mew and dog will have his day."
Ooh.
On the other hand,
that rolled off the
rhyming.
tongue.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth I, again, prior to her coronation in the mid-1500s, wrote in a letter to her brother, "Notwithstanding, as a dog hath a day, so I may perchance have time to declare it in deeds."
Here's the deal. You're trying to get Q1 in there awfully, that's a second reference.
By the way, let's be honest about this. One of these was made up by Brett, and
Which
these are
is
phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I'm going with Billy Spear. I'm going number 1.
I'm going number 1 as well.
I'm going with the Queen. Never go against the Queen.
The Queen is correct.
Yeah!
Oh, my God.
I'm over.
Yeah! You got anything right?
Nothing. Let's go.
One was
the
so
smart guy
solid.
now? Let's go. Put another one on my win. That's 10. Let's go.
And our final phrase. Give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. Is it an ancient Chinese axiom often attributed to Confucius, but it has no official origin other than it was coined during the spring and autumn period between 771 and 446 BC? Rather,
Or
from a mid-19th century British story by Anne Isabella Ritchie entitled Mrs. Diamond, which originally read, "The patron meant that if you give a man a fish, he is hungry again in an hour. If you teach him to fish, you do him a good turn."
I'm going with Annie on this one. I'm going number 2. I'm going with Annie.
Oh,
Jeff, you got to get off the schneid.
I'm over. I'm going 2. I'm going 2.
Oh, no. Now I feel horrible.
I'm going to go not the Chinese one, the other one.
You're going 2.
Number 2 is correct.
Yes! I finally broke free! Freedom! Woo! Well done, Brettomology. Well done.
Did you just yell freedom?
Freedom, yeah.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
He's the proud host at ESPN 850 in Cleveland, and soon to be renowned poop eater. Aaron Goldhammer. Aaron, we'll get to that part a little bit later, but let's start with Cleveland. I mean, what else can Toronto do to try and beat the Cavs? I mean, they had the lead almost the entire game until the end where it was tied. They can't find a bucket down the stretch. They get the Cavs when they're gassed, when LeBron says he's burnt. They got home court advantage, and they still find a way to lose to the Cavs for the 7th straight playoff game.
Yeah, guys, I mean, the Raptors are shook. There's no doubt about that. The 5-second violations, the unnecessary turnovers, they can't make a 1-foot shot in the final 10 seconds of the game to win in regulation. They missed 11 straight shots at the end of regulation. And I'm not sure there is a player who owns a team in sports right now. I mean, I'm not talking about physically owns. I'm talking about really owns them the way LeBron owns the Raptors. Even Drake, courtside, was coming unglued and arguing with Kendrick Perkins last night during that game. I almost feel bad for Toronto and the Raptors the way this is going.
Yeah, they had Kendrick Perkins and Drake had a little exchange of words at halftime. We'll definitely cover that during the show as well. That was Drake always making himself out there in the news. As far as the game, we know what LeBron can do, and we saw J.R. Smith finally be a teammate that scored 20 points for LeBron. Who else? Who is that guy that Cleveland feels needs to be the most consistent? I would say outside of Kevin Love, even though we didn't play that well last night, for Cleveland to really make a serious run at the title.
Well, you guys, Love has been terrible in the playoffs. So, I mean, I think if he is going to show up and play at an all-star level, it's going to give the Cavs a much better chance to go to the finals. But beyond that, they just have a couple of role guys who they need to step up and play a little bit tougher. And I think they've really found something with reinserting Tristan Thompson into the mix. It's been an incredibly emotional and drama-filled season for Tristan. I mean, they were chanting at him last night in his hometown, in his home arena in Toronto, the name of his, I guess, current girlfriend who he has a baby with, but there's images of him cheating. Anyway, we know the tabloid story that's going on here with him and the Kardashians. It's incredible what he's done, though, in these last two games. He got booed in Cleveland, you guys, 3 weeks ago with all of that drama going on. And in the last two games, in Game 7, he saved them. And I thought he was the Cavs arguably, and I know this is crazy to say because LeBron had a triple-double. I could argue Tristan was their best player last night.
Well, LeBron, look, he said it was his worst game of the season, even though he had a triple-double. He didn't score in regulation. He was 3 of 15 down the stretch. In the fourth quarter in regulation. That's never going to happen again. They're never going to win if LeBron goes 12 of 30. So outside of Tristan Thompson, JR finally got 20 points. First time this postseason that somebody not named LeBron James has crossed the 20-point plateau for Cleveland. If you're looking for someone else to be that consistent second scorer, not the little things maybe that Tristan did, but that consistent second scorer, who is it going to be?
I think you're asking me a question, Trey, that there isn't really an answer to, right? I mean, I don't think they have a consistent second scorer. Is Kyrie coming back? Can we trade for him
no.
and get him healthy? I think Love would be the obvious answer. I think we've seen him play in the playoffs long enough to know, and he's got this injury, this thumb injury, that's impacting him. I don't think he's going to be the guy. So they need a committee approach here. I think they need Kyle Korver to make 5 threes, which he did last night. JR to chip in, which he did last night. They could really use one of the guys they traded for, Hill, Clarkson, Hood, or Nance, to step up and have a game where they scored 10 or 15 points. We haven't really seen that yet in this postseason. But I don't think there is going to be one guy who's going to average 20 alongside LeBron on this roster in the postseason.
Talking to Aaron Goldhammer, host on ESPN 850 in Cleveland, and will soon be a poop eater. We'll get to that shortly. Again, he made the bet that he did not think Cleveland would take Baker Mayfield.
My parents are listening. They're so proud right now, Golic. I will tell you. They spent all that money on an NYU education, so I could be described as a poop eater on national television.
Well, you are what you eat. So, as I said, we'll get to that in a second. For those that may not know, he did not think the Cleveland Browns would actually take Baker Mayfield number one. Said if they did, he would eat horse poop. So we'll get to that part of it in a minute. But first, as far as Baker Mayfield, I would not have made that pick, Trey, either. How about the thought in Cleveland? What's the sense of the Cleveland Brown fans? Are they happy with the pick or not?
Oh, I think Browns fans are so psychologically beat down that they're just looking for anything to potentially get excited about. So what I'm witnessing is fans starting to talk themselves into this. But I don't mean to speak for all of Browns fans because I think they feel so differently about this pick across the board. I can't kind of sum up how all of them feel. But I guess I will say this. This was an incredible risk that the Browns decided to take. There was a safer, more prudent quarterback to select that I can almost guarantee you would be better than most, if not all, of the guys they've had on the field since 1999. And that guy is Sam Darnold. Instead, in the AFC North, where we play games in freezing cold weather, in a division with giants running around at 100 miles an hour, the Browns decided to take a 6-foot quarterback, not because of any of his physical traits. I think they decided to take him most of all over the other guys, they have said, because of what they describe as his efficacy, a word I had never heard before this draft, which means his ability to have impact on others, his leadership qualities, his intangibles, that his personality is going to change the culture of the Browns. They describe his inner strength. I'm concerned about his lack of outer strength when he's going up against the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals and the tough teams that the Browns have to try to compete with. I thought it was a ridiculous pick. But now that he's wearing a Browns uniform, we're rooting for him. If this works out, it's going to be so much fun. The star power, all of that will be amazing. But I've been covering and watching the Browns long enough to know how I think this is going to go.
Well, look, for Brown fans, long-suffering Brown fans, you absolutely hope it does work out because they deserve better. They're one of the best fan bases in all of football. I've said that a million times. But you're right. I think a lot of people are like, okay, not only that, and I know they love Emmanuel Ogbah, but passing up on Bradley Chubb for a cornerback, as good as Denzel Ward is, I think you always want that heat coming off the edge. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. What were you thinking in putting this on the line? And I understand now, as Aaron Goldhammer is with us, soon to be world-renowned poop eater from 850 Cleveland. I understand you're working with a chef to try and make this more palatable. How do you make poop palatable?
All right, so here's where we're at. Number one, I can't die doing this.
That's probably a good that's a good bar to try and cross. Yes.
All right. So we are hopefully getting in touch with the best doctors. We have great doctors here in Cleveland at University Hospitals. We're working with them to hopefully be able to either sterilize the poop or do something to the poop. You have no idea any given horse, what diseases they might carry and what bacteria might live in their intestine. I don't know. I'm a talk show host, not a scientist. I'm trying to be one. But I got to make sure that this poop is safe for me to eat, that I'm not going to die. If I get a little sick, fine. I'm not going to die in the name of this bet. Number two, we have a couple people who are at least, at this point committed verbally. Jim Nantz, CBS Sports, has committed to do play-by-play of the poop eating.
So it's a tradition unlike any other.
Unlike any other. The Iron Chef is Michael Simon. He is from Cleveland. He has agreed to try to do something to the poop to make it a more pleasant experience. I really want to do this. You guys have been in broadcasting a long time. Sometimes you say dumb things on the air, and then they just get replayed again over and over and over. Comes with the territory when you're on the air a lot, when you do a lot of hours of this. I want to do this, but also the company that I work for doesn't want to be held liable if anything happens to me. Anyway, it's in the planning stages, but my hope is that before training camp, we will have eaten the poop, but we'll keep you posted on where exactly this whole thing stands as we go through it, because we got to plan it up and make sure that it's safe and that you're not going to be reading my obituary next.
Is it safe to say that this was the last bet you've made?
Yeah.
No, I made one last night on the Cavs plus the points with my co-host Tony Rizzo, and he owes me lunch today. So no, this is. I'm just crazy enough, Golic, that this is not the last bet.
Let's just say it's the last fecal bet you'll have.
Anybody want to go double or nothing on poop eating? Anybody?
Well, what's the double? I mean, what's the other side of it?
Cavs winning this series? Anybody in Toronto?
I'm good. We appreciate that.
No, you enjoy that poop.
By the way, I got to say, while I admire your thought process, the guy in Philadelphia just picked it up and didn't even care.
Aaron, I was going to say that as well.
He didn't even care. I mean, he just went for it.
Yeah, he just picked up the horse poop and ate it. I'm sure he's okay right now.
Well,
so I'm not.
He was well lubricated at the time, we have to believe.
So, how many drinks deep do you think he was? About 12 beers, and I just pick it up right off the street and go?
That's fresh.
Yeah.
Oy.
I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, man, just keep us posted. I think the biggest win in all this is that Jim Nantz is doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Nantz's career. Final Four voice, Masters voice, poop eating voice.
There you go.
Top 3 things on his resume: gold, silver, bronze.
You enjoy it, Aaron. Enjoy that poop.
Literally enjoy the poop.
Enjoy your breakfast, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Mike, thanks for being with us. What were the realistic expectations you thought that you might be able to take Sam Darnold with the 3rd overall selection?
Well, I think as when we first made the trade, we always knew there was, a possibility, but I think we always kind of felt, at least at that point in time, that far out, that Sam seemed to be kind of mocked or locked in at 1, and there was obviously talk that the Giants may consider a quarterback at 2. So, when we made the trade, we put a lot of thought into it. I spent quite a bit of time with Brian Heimringer, who was kind of my right hand over here, kind of figuring out different scenarios after Kirk Cousins went to Minnesota, and we decided to act very proactively and do the deal. When we did it, we thought in terms of scenarios that presented themselves, we knew it was a possibility. We didn't think it was at that time a very high possibility, but of course, as we got closer to the draft, and really the day of, was probably the first time I started thinking realistically that there was a chance that Sam may not go 1, but then there's always a chance he would go at 2, and then eventually drop to us at 3, and we felt very happy to draft him there.
Before that even happened, were there calls to you or to you guys to someone else as far as moving either up or back from that pick?
I think, Mike, when we actually made the trade and positioned ourselves, I think everybody sort of figured, hey, we were fairly well entrenched at that 3rd spot, and we were actually quite happy to sit and wait and see what fell to us. We actually had some other players at the top of the draft we felt good about, so when we made the trade, we didn't necessarily make it kind of hoping something would happen. We felt very good about our potential options there. But for the most part, we had made some phone calls prior to the draft. When I actually got on the draft, I wasn't really reaching out to see if talking to me about moving. I think everybody probably assumed since we moved to 3 that we were pretty well set and weren't going to move out of that spot. So, we didn't have a lot of phone play at that point in time. We did have a little bit kind of going, prior to it, just to make sure anybody above us was going to do something or not. And we always kind of got the impression talking with Cleveland that they were fairly well entrenched to take a player. And of course, the Giants we're kind of going to wait and see what happened with them, because we had some feeling that they were, who they kind of liked, and then we're going to see how the thing would play itself out. So
I'm curious, when it's your turn or close to your turn and you're on the clock or right near it, do you, and your phone rings, certainly you can control if you call out, but if your phone rings, do you ever not answer it?
No, you generally answer the phone when it rings in the draft room, because you truly never know what may come across the table or in terms of options. But no, you definitely take all phone calls. You don't necessarily just let it ring and go from there, because it's funny. It's really I don't know if you guys have ever been in a draft room before, but before a lot of teams, what we do is we'll be 5 or 10 picks out. Maybe there's a group of players we kind of like, or maybe one player we want to go chase. So, of course, you make phone calls to try to see well in advance to see if you can move up a little bit and see what the cost would be. But at the same time, and what we do and a lot of other teams do, is we call teams behind us if we're looking to maybe have options to move out of the pick if for some reason. And I've been in draft rooms where literally the 2 or 3 players you really like get taken right before you. And then you're kind of left with maybe an option you could probably get a few picks later. So you usually work the phones quite a bit, but generally is if literally when your pick is like either on the clock. I mean, historically, I think almost every pick I've been associated with, at some point in time, the phone rings like literally when you're on the clock. Even in the 7th round this year, I got a call from somebody who wanted to kind of move potentially back and into the round, and of course we were not really that interested. We were kind of done for the day and moved on. But it does ring all the time, basically. Jets GM Mike Maccagnan with us this morning.
Listen, a lot of discussion was made when you guys the moved up, Mike, from 6 to 3. Basically, when you made that move, you had to sort of be comfortable with the potential of maybe 1, 2, or 3 different guys or 3 different quarterbacks being there at the 3rd selection if the Giants were going to take a quarterback as well at number 2. And you were okay with one of 3 different quarterbacks in that situation?
When we made the trade, and I think the one thing, I maybe haven't talked about this too much, but we've done quite a bit of work on these guys, literally starting from last spring. Obviously we get to listen, know who the senior prospects are and stuff like that. But we do put quite a bit of work into this, and we felt very good. I think the way it actually happened, like when we were sitting there in pro free agency, and we were obviously, as everybody's aware, that we're pursuing Kirk Cousins. when we missed out on Kirk, our plan was always to, okay, next option then is maybe address the position in the draft. And, of course, we had done quite a bit of work, knowing what the draft class looked like, knowing who the names would potentially be in the top 2 or 3 picks of the draft. And then we figured out the compensation part. And I wanted I've been in a lot of drafts over the years, and I know how sometimes when you're on the clock or somebody starts falling in the draft, that suddenly the price to move up becomes more expensive. We actually paid a pretty good price to move from 6 to 3, but I always wanted to hold on to our first round pick going forward. And to do that, it really kind of positions us at the 3rd spot. But really, I think it's been documented that after free agency went down and Kirk went to Minnesota, I literally went to the Oklahoma and the UCLA pro days, and I'd already seen quite a bit of Josh Allen, and also was aware of Sam Darnold. So, we felt pretty good sitting there at 3 and seeing what would kind of potentially fall to us.
Well, it certainly worked out, as you got a guy whose nickname the DNA falls to you, as Jets GM Mike Maccagnan with us. Listen, I want to get what you love most about Sam, but I want to tell you what I love most about Darnold in this process. He was the second highly recruited quarterback to sign at USC. And normally after one goes, the other quarterback wants to go somewhere else because he wants to be the guy. And when Sam signed up at USC after Ricky Town had already committed there, he went to Clay Helton, the offensive coordinator, looked him dead in the eye and said, "Hey, best guy plays, right?" And Clay said, "Absolutely." Yep. And by the time game 1 had rolled around, Ricky was transferring and Sam was going to be entrenched as a future. What did you love the most about Sam Darnold in this process?
Well, I think there's a lot of things, and I think, you guys probably know this, having been around the league and players, there's a lot that goes into quarterbacks and with every player, and it's, obviously skill and ability, in which we thought Sam has, a lot of talent and potential. We watched him, obviously, through his both seasons at USC. We saw him, with maybe a little bit stronger senior class in 2016. We saw him with maybe playing with some younger players in 17. And we just saw how he kind of, made things happen, made plays on and off schedule, worked inside, outside the pocket. We thought he had the ability to see the field at, 3 levels, which is, difficult for a lot of quarterbacks to do, and really make plays and make things happen. But all that being said, quite frankly, the other part we do, and this is no different than any other team in the NFL, whether it's a quarterback or any other position, but, you look at them from a personality and intangible standpoint, because you're really investing in somebody, and you're trying to invest in somebody you think and try to guess that they're going to try to fill the potential you see them having. And that's, so with Sam, it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things. We just felt very good about him as, not only a player in terms of ability, but as a person. And he thought it was the right fit for us, and we felt good about it, and are excited to see how he does going forward.
Mike Maccagnan, the Jets GM, joining us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Worked in the NFL since 1990, so you've been around a while. So I'm curious with this question. You have the college season where you see the players actually on the field playing football. And then you have the combine, then you have the pro day, and you have the individual workouts and such. How many times, or what's more, happens more in shorts and T-shirt, that a guy grades himself down or helps himself in the draft as compared to the actual play on the field during the season?
Yeah, I think really, Mike, when you go through this, there's so many, I think people, when they look at our process, we start off with these guys literally, and in about 2 or 3 weeks from now, I will be sitting in a big ballroom down in Florida, hotel, literally talking at our National Football Scouting Combine, not the actual Indy Combine, but like the scouting service we belong to, and they will more or less present all the draftable players, and we'll start our process for next year literally in 2 weeks. But as you go through this whole thing, I think, Mike, the biggest thing I think is, the film is what we probably put the most emphasis on, and that's, I think everybody in the league would probably agree with that. But as you go forward, you obviously go to the schools, you gather a lot of information on these players, from a personality and standpoint, because again, you're investing in a person basically when it's all said and done. But the live exposure is extremely important, because again, when you're looking at colleges, there's different levels of competition from 1, 2, and 3, and there's different levels of competition within different conferences. So that gives you an ability to kind of evaluate the player. So you watch the tape, you evaluate the tape, you go out to see them live to get kind of a measure of how they're performing. You see them play live in games. You get to the All-Star games. In the All-Star games, you see them in another environment where it's a little different than college. They're in a new environment. You get a chance to see them work against other players. So that gives us a good way to measure them. Also gives us access to them to actually talk to them and start to get a feel for them from a personality standpoint, which at that point in time, we've already talked to many people about these kids at the school. We get to the All-Star games, their first chance to kind of get with these guys in a lot of cases face-to-face and get a chance to interact with them and get a feel, either confirm or maybe get different feels for what we've been told about them. So that gives you the live exposure physically and the live exposure from a personality standpoint. You go to the combine, which again is our big, we give them physicals, we measure them, we test them, we put them through a series of tests, we interview them, we get, a very smaller window, only 15 minutes at the combine. But again, it's still sort of speed dating. You get a chance to feel for them there. It's still an important part. And again, part of this business is, judging their ability, obviously subjectively off a tape, but the other part is measuring it in terms of testing ability, and that gives you some ability, which kind of helps you compare them. And then as you go forward to the college all-star, after the combine, you go to the pro days where you get a chance to spend a day with these guys. Sometimes you can take them out for dinner before or after. You definitely, if you go in there, you have a personal workout with them. Sometimes separate from the pro day, you get a chance to spend a day with them or time with them in the film room, talk to them, interact with them. Again, talk to people at the school about them. And eventually, when you get to April, you usually have your 30 visit where you bring them into your facility for a day. Again, another environment where you're just trying to gather as much information and feel for them as possible. So the physical part of the shorts and the T-shirts and the workout part, yes, that's part of it. It helps sort of reconfirm what we've sort of evaluated off of tape. I would say majority of our evaluation is based off of tape, and that's kind of how it's done. But there's a lot of other pieces of data we bring in and exposures we bring in to kind of get a feel for what these guys are and try to put a value on them and try to project their, how they're going to do and the risk involved with that and the potential return of if they can fulfill their potential. So I know it's probably a long answer, but that's kind of
it was a good one.
Bit of a synopsis of kind of what and as I said, it's literally a year-round process. We will literally be in a meeting with all the scouts in about 2 weeks going over all next year's guys. So.
Well, look, the idea of Darnold being there is just one of a really interesting quarterback room for the Jets now. As Jets GM Mike Maccagnan is with us, you have Josh McCown there, who's the ultimate guy you'd want the young quarterbacks to learn from, and Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's finally getting healthy, and we'll see how that all transpires with how these guys may play out. I do want to ask you about your third-round selection. He was one of my most interesting guys in the entire draft. For people that don't know, he's a defensive tackle, Nathan Shepard, out of Fort Hays State. He's from Canada. He started out at Simon Fraser College. Now, Simon Fraser College and all Canadian scholarships don't give full scholarships. Yep. So if you don't have money to sustain yourself, you can't go to school. So he ran out of money. He couldn't continue there, took some odd jobs, finally found his way to Fort Hays State. He's 6'4", 315 pounds as a defensive lineman. Boy, as a specimen, Mike, he looks as good as anybody possibly could. What intrigued you the most about this kid?
He was a kid that our scouts had identified. They got him from the combine and then the initial list. They went in there, they evaluated him, they liked him, they gave him draftable grades. Obviously, Fort Hays State, for those of you who don't know, it's sort of in the middle of Kansas. If I remember, right. I was there many years ago, and it's not the easiest place to get to, but it's a very pretty drive going out there from which if you're coming from the east or coming from the west. But it's obviously a lower level competition school, and we saw I kind of knew about him before we went to the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl is where he really, I think, had the ability to really sort of showcase his ability and his talents. I thought he showed very well there. It was actually unfortunate that he wasn't able to play in the game because that would have been another good piece of exposure on him. But, to a certain degree, since he didn't, sometimes maybe that leaves a little bit more of a question on him. So that kind of helps you kind of get him in a spot where you feel pretty good about the risk and return in the third round. But again, he went down there, showed very well against good some of the better competition in college football, and of course went to the combine and reconfirmed all his ability from a physical standpoint, testing standpoint. We actually sent our coach out to the pro day with him and spent time with him with our scouts. Brought him in for a visit also. But the neat thing about him was he's a little bit older. He's about 24 and a half. He obviously took a much different path to where he is today. But again, it was sort of his, sort of a testament to his character, perseverance, and the fact that he had a dream and a vision of what he wanted to do with his life, and persevered through it, worked, and was probably very mature and really stayed focused on what he wanted. Didn't go to maybe a big time college in terms of exposure, but I tell people all the time, it doesn't really matter what level of competition it is. We've cast such a wide net with all 32 teams. We'll find guys, and but he's a guy we're very excited about. We do think there's he does have a lot of ability. I think there's still areas of his game he needs to improve upon, and considering where he came from in terms of his facility and resources as opposed to a much larger school, we still think there's a lot of potential that's still to be tapped in him. So we're quite excited about him, and he's one of the guys. Again, we were kind of excited to get him in the third round. We thought that was a good spot for him, and we'll see how he does going forward. But he's a good story and a great person, so we're kind of excited to see what he does.
He certainly is. From Canada to Kansas to the Big Apple, why the draft is so great. Jets GM Mike Maccagnan with us. Mike, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, good. Thank you, guys. Anytime I can help you guys, let me know.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.